You are listening to the IFH Podcast Network. For more amazing filmmaking and screenwriting podcasts, just go to ifhpodcastnetwork.com.
Hey, and welcome to episode 369 of the show. This week we have Laura Asherman and Andrea Zoppo from short film Smile, Little Ladybug, which played recently at the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival. We talk about making a documentary from both sides of the camera, the world of clowning, and much more. Hope you enjoy the interview, and I'll see you in the intermission. All right, welcome, Andrea, Laura. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hey there. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, Chuck.
And why don't you guys introduce yourselves real quick and so we can get some names and voices going and just a little bit about your role in the film.
Okay, I'll go first. My name is Laura Asherman, and I am the director of Smile, Little Ladybug.
Yay. My name is Andrea Zoppo, otherwise known as Miss Ladybug, and I am in the film Smile, Little Ladybug.
I think we can say you're the star.
I'm a star. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much, Laura, for making me a star.
Well, tell us a little bit about the story of Smile, Little Ladybug.
All right. Well, it's really a story about Andrea and her grandfather. And it's a short film. It's 16 minutes long. It's a documentary. And it's about Andrea today, who is a wonderful children's educator, garden queen, and clown, and how her grandfather, Herbert Cohn, was a big inspiration for her. And Andrea, feel free to add into that.
Wowie zowie. Thank you for the kind words. Yes, it's about my relationship with my grandfather in the ways that it helped direct and be a guidepost for my mission in life. My mom was also a clown, and so it's sort of this beautiful juxtaposition between like what we can do with, some of these heavy subjects and intergenerational stories, specifically around the Holocaust. And so this beautiful film that Laura made kind of shares that in a very short and concise way. I think it's only like 15, 16 minutes. And you hear the story of my grandfather and my family being able to escape the Holocaust, and then seeing what me and my mom, how we were inspired by the messages around our particular, around our faith in Judaism, specifically the message of tikkun olam, which means to help repair the world, and how we translated that into our lives through clowning. Oh my gosh.
Laura, how did you stumble upon this story?
Well, I actually remember the moment very well because I was hiking with my good friend Michelle, and she already knew Andrea, and we were kind of brainstorming documentary ideas. And I forgot to mention, Michelle is the producer of the film, and Michelle talked about Andrea and her wacky family, which was made up of clowns and great characters, and that her grandfather was a Holocaust survivor who at the time was still alive. And of course, that piqued my interest. And I immediately wanted to meet Andrea and hear more firsthand about her family and her clowning and, of course, her grandfather. And when we set up a meeting, that was probably 2 years before we actually started making the film, maybe a year, but it was a significant amount of time before we were able to start shooting and raise a little bit of money to get started. But I immediately thought that Andrea was just an incredible person and totally warm and unusual in the best way possible. So my documentary brain just went spinning, and I tried to, apply for tons of grants and see how we could make this a film.
Wow. And Andrea, talk a little bit about, was this your first starring role? And what was the experience like?
Definitely my first, I guess, starring role in a film for sure. I've gotten to be a part of some, little things about, like nature and gardening and food and, different things. It was wild, I mean, I think, having some film crew like follow you around is always kind of like a wild, surreal experience. And, Laura and Michelle like visited, the different places that I clown around and teach at. And so that was really interesting, especially if I like show up and people are like, who are these people with the cameras? Oh my goodness. And I'm like, oh, it's nothing. They're just hanging out. Don't worry. I think what was interesting for me is specifically like, having this lens to share, but also a lens on me, myself, and my family, helped me, connect even deeper to my own story. When people find your story interesting and they elevate your voice, it makes you feel like you're special and that you take more time to reflect on, the different things that brought you here. Given that, with the Holocaust and the circumstances around my grandfather, it was, there's very specific circumstances on how I'm even alive today, and getting to do the work I get to do in this country. So, it helped me reflect and ask questions and even learn more about those special circumstances and connect me more in a deeper level with my family and specifically my grandfather, even after he passed. So I'm so grateful to Laura and this opportunity to share the story.
This episode is brought to you by Sapelo Insurance. Sapelo is Georgia's premier film insurance agency. With over 10 years of experience in commercial lines and with film industry professionals on staff, Sapelo offers you the insurance you need for your next project, including equipment, general liability, auto liability, workers' comp, guild travel, and more. Contact Sapelo when you are starting your next production. For more information, check out their website at sapeloins.com.
Thank you, Andrea. And I have to say, making a film about a person is really hard because you have to do it so carefully. And when you're working, especially with intergenerational stories, every family has some baggage. So you have to find this balance of getting intimate with the family and really seeing their vulnerabilities, and also not doing damage by making the film. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, different family members are going to have different opinions about this, or not really know if they can trust us, the film crew, because who are we? They've never heard of us. So I'm so grateful that you let us in, Andrea, because I'm sure along the way you were probably questioning, or your family was questioning, like, do these people really have a good intent? Are they going to tell our story with dignity and honesty? And hopefully that's what we were able to accomplish. But we couldn't have done that without their support and their agreement in this mutual relationship that took several years to foster and, several more years to make the film.
And that's so true. And, it really opened my eyes to how we have we all have our own relationships with our family members, and they differ, and like specifically intergenerational. Like my relationship with my grandfather is very different than my mom's relationship with her father. And I think that this film and this experience and the process of it, helped me better understand that. And I think I think a lot of people can relate with that, like being a parent and being a grandparent are very different things. And, I think my mom as a clown didn't feel as supported by her father. She was like, maybe felt like, oh, my dad's not proud of me because I'm a clown, But then I felt like my grandfather was so proud of me and loved that I did clowning.
Yeah, and even in including your mom in the film, and she is in the film. She has a couple short scenes. We really went back and forth so much in the editing process of how much to include, because she mentioned some of those things in her interview that she didn't always feel the support and love of her father, and then when he remarried his new wife. And that was something that was really interesting, because your mom is this fascinating, super unusual person.
Oh,
and
gosh, yes.
for her, she clearly comes from a darker place when she does this thing, which is putting on a mask and being fun and silly in front of children. So it's kind of like her relationship to clowning is very complex, and we wanted to explore that, but also we didn't want to make this a feature-length film or take away from the central message, which was more about your grandfather and how you gleaned so much of your inspiration from him. So that was just something that we went back and forth on so much in the editing process.
Well, I'm really curious about something you said, Laura, about gaining that trust. Andrea, from your perspective, how did Laura and everybody gain your trust? Like, was it something in particular, or just the passage of time? Maybe talk a little bit about that.
I think it was a lot. It's like time. I think it takes time to build relationships. And I think, people don't realize that these are passion projects. And like, if you are an artist, this is something that you care about and you're making an art form. And I don't think a lot of people know what that process is. I think when they hear like film and like, what's the story, maybe they think they're being exploited or something, like what are they getting out of this? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
oh yeah.
Yeah. And so I kept trying to explain, I'm like, nobody's getting anything out of anybody. Like, we're just, like nobody's trying to like, make a buck off of like you or your story. Like it's, it's not like that. Like it's an art project, and like, we're all like, making art together, and like our lives are art, and these are artists and their lives are art, and they're showcasing these beautiful stories. And so I think it just took time for them to understand the process of like what it is to make indie films and what it is to make art. And I was so pleased. I didn't share a lot with my family, and only until it recently, when the films is out in the film festival world, my mom asked to watch the film.
Yeah.
And I like was nervous. Like I was really nervous about it. Like, and then I never know what she's going to think about something. She's always a surprise. And, always. And she saw the film and she enjoyed it. And I was just elated. It just took so much. She enjoyed it, and she like, thought it was good and wanted to share it. So I just thought, wow, I was stressed out for no reason, but yeah, I think that it does take time and understanding. I mean, a lot of people don't understand maybe the process of these type of filmmaking, you know, that only like the big films like are money makers, I imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing I want to add to that, I have this memory, Andrea, of when I was staying over at your house last year, and in between filmings, and we were just sitting there and talking, and it was kind of this revelation moment for me and you, maybe to an extent, where we kind of talked about the fact that you are cast as the star in a story that I am telling about you, but it's still, it's your story, but I'm the one creating it. And there's so much more to your story and to your family. And this is just one angle looking into that scene through my lens. And I think that's something that's really important in documentary as a genre, that this is not the whole truth. The director's fingerprint, or whoever's making that film, is going to be all over the film, even if it's presented as an objective story. That does not exist in documentary. So this was really my art project about my understanding of Andrea.
Hey, and welcome to the Intermission. This is Chuck just breaking in with some quick announcements. Next Monday, Film Bar Monday will be at Trackside Tavern in Decatur. Remember to head there for food and drinks and fun, not necessarily networking. Leave those business cards at home. This Saturday, I'll be at Kennesaw State University's Geek Week for their OwlCon conference. I'm hosting a panel on getting into the world of podcasting. So if you have any questions about that, I've got some really great guests that are going to talk about their shows and how they broke in and give tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff. Plus, come for the whole conference. There's going to be cosplay competition, all sorts of cool stuff. You can find a QR code on our socials where you can register. And coming up in May 10th specifically, my script 8-Bit Bloodsport will be read live in person in front of a live studio audience at Roll Call Theater. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've somehow roped a crazy, insane amount of talent into reading this script, so you don't want to miss it. I'll wait for Roll Call to announce everything before I tell you who's in it. But it's nuts. It's kind of crazy. Some of your favorite shows will be represented on the stage reading the script. So hope to see you there. Yes, it's May 10th. That's a Tuesday. So come on out. Can't wait to see you. And finally, I need to tell you about our sponsors, Element Certified Public Accountants and Consultants. If you're looking to make a life change, get in some different work, are you really good at math and numbers and money and that kind of thing? Something I'm clearly not good at because I can barely talk about it. Well, Element and its sister company, Storyboard Financial Services, are hiring production accountants. They're looking for entry-level clerks and production accountants, assistants, and keys. Full-time positions include health benefits, retirement benefits, and immediate room for growth. If you're interested, please contact Element by visiting elementcpas.com. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Element, they provide production accounting, tax services for filmmakers, tax credit audits, individual and corporate tax return preparation, loan out company creation, all sorts of stuff. Vital services for every filmmaker out there. So save the drama for the set. Let Element take the burden of tax and accounting off your back, especially if you haven't done your taxes yet. It's very close to being that time. So get it done. Visit them at elementcpas.com. Whether you need money help or you would like to provide money help as a job, elementcpas.com. Element, fluent in your language. All right, hope you're enjoying the interview with Lauren and Andrea. It was great talking to them. If you haven't yet, make sure you head over to patreon.com/AFC Indie Film, where you can find their Patreon exclusive. You can get it a week early. You get it for as low as $1 a month. There's other options, including a shout out on the show. Thanks to Ken Merritt for getting that one. There's literally hours of content over there you're missing if you haven't been over there, so go check it out. Patreon.com/AFC Indie Film. All right, I'm going to get you back to the show. Make sure you're still working on your stuff. Writing, directing, acting, whatever it is you're doing, even if you're still holed up in your room, whatever you got going on, the only way to keep moving forward is to keep working on stuff. Eventually, you're going to get there. Persistence is key. All right, see you next week. Yeah, on that note, talk a little bit about choosing what to, because I mean, I've talked to so many documentary makers and they always talk about just the sheer amount of footage that they have and trying to decide the the little bit, like you said, the little bit of reality to portray. So talk a little bit about that, and maybe was there some stuff that you hated to cut, but you knew that it just didn't fit?
I know what those filmmakers are talking about. I've been in that situation a lot. And while, of course, we filmed, dozens of hours for a film that was 16 minutes long, with this project, we were really limited by the pandemic. Because
right. Yeah.
about 90% of our production happened during the pandemic, where we were unsure of how much we could be around each other. I was actually living elsewhere and commuting to Atlanta once a month or so. Almost all of Andrea's in-person shows were canceled. So if anything, we were kind of desperately trying to get more footage to see like where this could go. But yes, of course we had to kill our darlings. And I think the area that I wanted to explore more the most and ultimately decided it wasn't going to really be necessary for this film was looking into Barbara, Andrea's mom's, journey and character.
Oh yeah, that would have been just fascinating. Fascinating. But yeah, to add to what Laura just said, like, I think we started filming in November or December pre-pandemic. Mm-hmm. And because of that, the lighting, the lighting's more drab, like the weather's more drab, mm-hmm. like, like going, I do a lot of outdoor like clowning and performing and fun stuff. And there was just it wasn't the right, like palette, so to speak, to really showcase. So when I think we first saw some of the first cuts, me and like my close people, they just were like, this needs more sunshine, but it really was yeah. like literally like it needed more sunshine because the Holocaust and my grandfather's story is a very emotional story. And I bring a lot of light to the work with the work I do. So like showcasing that light, and then, that we started it before the pandemic, and then we started, the filming started before the pandemic, and then we're filming, and then the pandemic hits. I think that was a real big challenge. And then also I think, Laura can speak about the decision on whether or not to include the pandemic in the documentary. Mm-hmm. Like that was challenging because, like we had footage before the pandemic without masks, and we were wondering, like how to do we even address it in such a short amount of time, mm-hmm. In the real world. And I think, ultimately we chose not to, because it was a short film and there was footage from before masks,
Mm-hmm. And that would have just taken it into a whole nother direction, which could totally warrant a film. But we really, with the short amount of time and trying to tell parallel storylines, we just decided not to go into the pandemic. And I'm kind of glad, because it's, there's so much sadness all around us. We open the newspaper, we look online, we look on Twitter or Instagram. It's all just so much bad news. And what drew me to Andrea is her light, and is this positive, warm outlook, and this kind of hopeful attribute in which she teaches children how to make the world a better place. And I really wanted to capture that and that happiness. And even though Herbert's story has some really sad parts, we didn't want to dwell on how messed up the world is right now.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, ultimately my grandfather, his message is definitely super positive. It's like, it's action focused. It's what are we going to do? Like, how do we make this a better world? And like, let's do it. That's what we need to do.
Yeah.
Film Impact Georgia is a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing a voice to independent film production in the Peach State. Their focus includes short film grants, development labs, community boosting events, and support services from vendors and mentors. Georgia has diverse and engaging storytellers, and FIG is determined to help break down the barriers to creation in our state. Find more information about the organization and how to get involved at filmimpactgeorgia.org.
Well, I mean, we say that this is your first starring role, but really, whenever you're doing a show, you are the star of that show to the audience that's there. Maybe talk a little bit about that, comparing the two art forms. Did you see anything similar in doing this film versus your shows as a clown?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you. Yeah, like because of my upbringing, I kind of feel like I was sort of pushed onto a stage, if that makes sense. Like I felt like that was, a path that I was put on, so to speak. I mean, as a young person, like I would go with my, mom as her clown assistant or a magician helper, carrying rabbits and different things. And
Yeah.
Even dressing up like fuzzy characters. I'm not sure, like if we were supposed to dress up like these particular well-known pop culture characters, but you know what I mean? I think Winnie the Pooh is safe to say because that's an older one, but I was Winnie the Pooh and many other beloved children fuzzy characters. And so, that was sort of my high school time. And so, performing on stage with children and how that developed in me has always been a really intimate relationship with my audience. And so when I am on stage, it's really, I really look into the eyes of the people in the audience. And it's a really strong connection for me. I can see and read a lot from the energy that we exchange. So it is a completely different experience than being on a film. There isn't really that exchange. Actually, I don't see the exchange at all. It's more of this like kind of void you're looking into. And I find it much more challenging to look into a void and perform than look into the sparkles in people's eyes. And that being said, the pandemic was exceptionally challenging, even though I was offered, online teaching opportunities and online things. It just, it's not the same, of course, as having that live audience engagement and connection. And it really does feel more of a collaboration, even though, as you said, I'm the star on stage. I feel like it's a relationship that I'm working with, and I will pivot very quickly if I don't see the sparkles.
That's why it's so important that you come out to, now that we're having some in-person screenings, that we have one where you can be there and see people reacting to the film. Because I have to say, as a independent filmmaker, that is the biggest reward that you get from it is watching people react to your movie.
Mm-hmm. I don't think I've heard anything more apt when you said it's difficult to look into the void and be creative. And I'm a screenwriter, so I'm sitting at home most of the time, literally doing that. And that's so like on the nose that kind of gave me a shiver. So man, all right. Thank you for that new quote for my life. But it's very true. It's very true. There's that instant gratification where you're like, maybe you tell a joke or something and somebody instantly laughs. That is just like, yes, here we go. But it's so nice.
It's fuel. It's so fuel. It's like, it keeps you going, and you be careful chucking the void out there.
Yeah. Thanks. Plus you mentioned about your mom and the family lineage. My buddy Raymond Carr. You might know Raymond. Yeah.
Yeah.
His parents were clowns, and he just talks about his interesting life growing up. And of course he became a pretty famous puppeteer working on huge shows and stuff. But so it's not quite not quite the same, but still feels, at least next to it, perpendicular, whatever it is, parallel. There we go. So yeah, there's just something to be said about growing up in that crazy life and saying, well, this seemed. I actually, that's a good question. As growing up, I imagine other kids were like, "You must have the craziest life," but to you, it was probably just like, "Well, this is just I'm carrying rabbits and stuff on stage. This is just what we're supposed to do, right?"
Oh gosh, it was hard. I think now, like in the last, 10 years for sure, and even maybe 15, 20 years, like, circus arts and clowning, clowning has a bad rap on its own with, just the scary movies and like, and, all that. But I mean, clowning has got a rich, beautiful history. Like it's really worth, taking some time to look into the history of clowning. But, as far as like the circus arts and that sort of stuff, I think only recently has it become sort of cool.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Quote unquote cool. Like, oh wow, you can juggle, or something. Like that's cool. But like that wasn't cool like when I was growing up. It was not cool. Like, I mean, it wasn't cool being the clown daughter, like it kind of, I probably went through my all black stage in like 3rd or 4th grade.
Yeah.
Like just all just like I kind of was a little bit, I guess, what emo, or I don't know what you'd call it, like, but I just was a little bit questioning, you question reality, you question like what when Laura was mentioning the masks that we wear, like how we, put on a happy face and all that. And I kind of like processed a lot of that early on, hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Luckily, I did it early on. It helped me get through it.
That's good. Yeah, that's great. Well, tell everybody where to find information about the film, and so we can keep up with all these screening dates, so we can go check it out, and websites and your own personal stuff you want to throw out there.
Oh yeah, okay. So the film's website is www.smilelittleladybug.com. Pretty easy to remember, and there we have all of our upcoming screenings and festivals. And we definitely are looking forward to doing something in Atlanta again after our awesome screening at the Atlanta Jewish Film Festival. But we want to do something in person. So we'll keep you posted that way. And you can check me out on Instagram at Forage Films.
And Andrea?
Wonderful. I'm easy. I'm on Instagram. Follow Ladybug.
All
so
right.
That's just Follow Ladybug. And I have a website. It's followladybug.com. And the most exciting thing we're doing right now is we're doing these like silly, fun, giant eco puppet shows. And I'm about to bring out my old stage, a giant shoe. And we're going to have like little puppets popping out of the shoe and telling you fun facts about the world and the environment. And so follow Ladybug. You can find me.
Right. Now you had me at puppets, so I'm in. Well, I really appreciate y'all coming on and telling me about this, and good luck with this film and all your future projects.
Oh, thank you so much, Chuck.
Thank you. You too, Chuck, out there in the void.
The AFC Indie Filmmaking Podcast is produced by Zombie Cat Productions and Tranquil Aggression Productions. Your host is Chuck Thomas from AtlantaScreenwriter.com. Editing is by Joshua Golke. Find him at AtlantaFilmmaking.com. Music and event recording is by Michael Breezy Keys Jones. He is found at LDXSoundLabs.com. Zombie Cat Productions is owned by Molly Coffee. You can find it at ZombieCatProd.com and her at MollyCoffeeDesign.com. I am your announcer, Rob Scheimer. I can be found on SoundCloud. My profile name is ROBSHIMER. Thanks to our media partners at CinemaATLMagazine.com, and thank you for listening. Grab all our episodes at AFCIndieFilm.com.